Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today, we're in the second week of the Star Wars Spelt Out holiday special. I'm just living it up. I'm just looking like a makeup-faced Mark Hamill here, just grinning, having a great old time. And Catherine's just like a happy-go-lucky Carrie Fisher, just singing along with Today for... I don't even know how it goes. And then we've got a bloke who's not on school holidays who's just scowling in the corner like Harrison Ford. Matthew Turbo Thurbon. He's not actually. He's actually grinning a lot. Hello, guys. How you going?
Hey, everyone.
Hey, second week in a row of plumbing issues on Acolyte Day.
Wow. It's just bring your plumbers to Acolyte. Bring your plumbers to your house before Acolyte Day. What happened this time? Give us the very quick version, Catherine. Did your shower explode or your toilet explode or something?
Yeah, as I was, turning the taps on in the shower, the cold water just went bloop, big bang, and it all came off.
Is it like spraying out of the side kind of thing?
Fortunately, no spraying, but that's why, the emergency people won't come out.
They're like, if you're not in an ankle deep of water here, we can't really help you, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So they will come tomorrow, but yeah, it's like, are you kidding me? Like twice in a week, I'm getting. Well, I rang them up, going, "Yeah, you were here last week."
I've only got one more week of Acolyte to go, Catherine. So at least we're not on week 2 here, and you've just found that it's copped in. But yeah, good to know. Turbo, welcome back, mate. We've missed you the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I just realised the last episode I was on was episode 3, the last flashback episode. So
you could just roll in.
Good continuation there. Yeah.
It's like poetry at rhymes.
It is, just like that. But it's is this? I mean, this is the week where it's all Acolyte. Episode 7. If you're not familiar, what's the episode title? I was a real rush to watch it today after I left 4 Mile Beach in Port Douglas after my swim. Look it up, Google it. It's probably the nicest beach you'll ever see.
Choice.
It's a choice beach. What's it called?
So
this week?
It's called Choice. So I.
Oh, sorry. I thought you actually said. I thought then. Sorry to interrupt. That you were referring to me saying that 4 Mile Beach was choice, like it was a New Zealand thing. Like, New Zealanders say, "Oh, yeah, it was choice, bro. It was a choice. It was a choice beach." Eh? And I'm like, that's weird that Turbo is not a New Zealander, would use New Zealand vernacular. But hello to our New Zealand listeners.
No. So I think last week I tweeted Steele, I think, and thinking about what the episode might be called in contrast to Destiny. So episode 3, Destiny, and what's the opposite of Destiny? Well, it's choice, because Destiny seems like preordained, but choice means your path is up to you. So I actually got it right. One of my few predictions I got right.
Play the game tape back. Look at that one. Yeah, and a longish episode this week too. Well, longer than the last few. So good 38 minutes.
Something like that. Look, the official, thing at the start says it was over 40. So with credits, it came to that mid to high 30s type of range.
One of my closest friends and his family came up to Port Douglas yesterday, and we had lunch with them. So I'd been at the beach in the morning. So I was in the water at 4 Mile Beach and looking at my watch going, the Acolyte's just dropped right now. Well, I can't go anywhere near my phone until some other time later in the day. And then I had lunch with them, and then they came over for a swim. So I had the window between we left them for lunch and they came over for a swim. So I ran into the bedroom and watched it, and I'm going, 38 minutes. Surely it's not going to take them it's going to take them shorter than 38 minutes to come over for a swim. And so I sort of finished it up, and my mate was out the back. He's like, "Oh, you enjoy your Star Wars?" You're just sitting on the back next to the pool with a beer. I'm like, yeah, I did actually. But thank you for waiting. But wow. So has all been revealed? I don't know. Kind of. I kind of felt like it has and it hasn't.
Kind of.
Yeah, so we see more of the sort of misunderstandings or, this high-mindedness of the Jedi, like assuming things. But then we're left with the question of, the black smoke of it all.
Even
the motivations.
I know we're jumping. Well, we're going to jump all over the place. Yeah. I mean, the thing that's interesting about this from the start is it's a straight episode. There is no flashback. There's no. We talked about. I think when you're on last Turbo, of we'll see May's point of view, but it's not anybody's point of view. It's really just almost like somebody should take these 2 episodes and re-edit it and basically edit the 2 episodes together. It's almost like Back to the Future 2. You're kind of Back to the Future 2ing it. You're Marty McFly behind the car looking at Marty McFly running across the, the school car
slightly
park.
Different angles, different perspectives and angles. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. I think someone will do it pretty surely. Stitch it all.
Yeah,
together.
Come on, somebody else.
Like
with
I said,
the free time.
Everyone sort of assumed or sort of read into it was Osha's point of view, and to some degree it was. So every scene you saw in episode 3 was focused around Osha. So at first I thought it was her perspective, so it might not have been the actual truth. But now I'm more thinking that it was the truth, what we saw. And then just the editing, we got the complete picture today.
And just the motivations
from all angles.
Yeah, and why people did what they did and what they were sort of vibing. And like I said, we've only watched it once, and you, Turbo, 1.5 times. So our recollection's not perfect, but it was, I mean, they were just out on some sort of boring, like, talking about getting the most boring Jedi mission of all time. You just assume, I mean, we always kind of go, Jedi work's not all lightsabers. Sometimes it's border disputes and trade disputes. This feels like it's basically like the bottom of the barrel of the work.
Yeah. Go out and collect some moss,
Yeah, so the interesting part of that was them saying they were, explaining the mission to Thurbon and us, that they're there looking for life because 100 years ago in the hyperspace disaster, that system was declared lifeless, or that planet was declared lifeless. And it's sort of interesting that that's referencing the High Republic books, the very first book in that was The Light of the Jedi. That's the hyperspace disaster. And I didn't go back today and look through the book to see if that planet gets mentioned, but it is an interesting link.
And they're just sort of...
then you've got...
Sorry, Turbo, you go, mate.
I was going to say that you've got Kalnaka with his metal detector.
Looking like an old bloke on the beach looking for coins, or one of these days someone's going to drop a gold watch in here and you're all going to think that I'm not crazy anymore with this little... Yeah, do you know anybody who owns one of those? I feel like it must be everyone's eccentric uncle who's got a metal detector.
I used to own one as a kid. I used to scour the beach.
What's the best thing you ever got?
Down the south coast. Yeah, no, I did. As a kid, I found a few things. I still remember it was like this. It was kind of a toy one, but it was kind of a burnt orange 70s style sort of plasticky thing, but it actually worked.
It wasn't like a severed finger with a diamond ring on it or anything like that. Something pretty hardcore. No. Yeah, so they're just kind of out there doing field work. So they're not, because we had all this speculation of are they there particularly because the witches are there? Are they spying on them? Do they know about the sort of the forced birth or whatever you want to call it at the time? Are they doing all of this stuff? And they're really just out there on a boring mission. And Turbo, I know you've got teenage sons. You're getting a bit of dad, I want to go home. This, this sucks.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. What are we doing here? Let's go home. This is boring. No, but it was good in that it showed that the Jedi weren't out there spying or anything, or deliberately on a mission to find something. It was just boring field work. But from the witches' perspective, they would have thought they were being spied on.
Yeah, of course. No one's out there, and then all of a sudden there's 4 Jedi at your door. And it's interesting. There's an amazing line in this, and I'm sure it's a line. It's a throwaway line. It's not like a line that has a lot of impact. It's not just like a "May the Force be with you." But there's a line in this where Master and Dara just goes, "Well, let's just stop. We don't have all the information yet," and talk about a theme for this series of just stop. We don't have all the information yet. You're all making these huge declarations of what this show does and how it treats its characters and Jedi and everything like that. And it's like, hey, you don't know. We don't have the information yet. Yeah. You don't have the information yet.
That should have been in episode 1, just to sort of set the scene. Hey, you don't have all the information. Just chill.
But Leslie Headland could just walk out the show like, "Hi, I'm television's Leslie Headland. In this series, there'll be lots of twists and turns and mystery." Alfred Hitchcock would come editing and lots of twists and turns and mysteries and maybe you don't know what you think you know. You'd think that audiences are slightly more sophisticated these days, but we've actually learned that that's not the case at all.
Oh yeah,
because the Jedi come off.
They're out there. I was going to say they're out there looking for a virgin. So I think, is that the first time they talked about a virgin? the actual word. But
so what does that mean? Does it just mean that the force is manifested in a way where it's affecting its environment? Is that basically what it means?
I think they described it as a concentration of the force in a particular location or place.
Yep.
Which what did they say?
Makes
they
things
say
react to it.
Have the potential to create life or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it again makes us question what's going on, the birth, why the witches chose that planet. Did they know about this vergence already? But also, what does testing moss show also?
Well, I guess they're just trying to find how old it is. I just kind of thought it was like maybe they've gone, all right, well, 100 years ago in the High Republic or whenever that hyperspace disaster happened, the whole place got blasted and there was nothing here. And now 100 years later, there's vegetation. Is it 100 years old? Is this life thousands of years old? Can we get a deal, figure it out where it's come from? But we've got to spend a lot of time sitting around eating chicken and whatever else, sitting by the fire. So it's like this moss? Poor Thurbon is just a sully teenager who's signed up for adventure. So what was that, Turbo? He's collecting moss.
I was going to say the moss they were collecting it looked like they were putting it in one of those Ghostbusters ghost traps. That's what it looked like to me.
It just looked like really boring work. And he's just out there going, I signed up for a life of adventure and I'm just out here with 3 adults. Like one doesn't even speak English. And I've got to sit around the fire with these old people every night. And it's just...
But we got some Wookiee cooking, which is good.
Yeah.
You've got to respect the Wookiee cooking.
Yeah.
What is it? Whisk, whisk, stir, stir, whisk, 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 stir.
But he was very sullen. I was getting some real Anakin Skywalker. Like before anybody goes, Thurbon drove me up the wall. What a sookie, impulsive. I'm like, that was classic Anakin Skywalker Padawan moves as well.
It's classic
teenagers. Yeah. So,
this is boring, miss.
Yeah, he was literally... Yeah, like I'm sure Catherine, as a high school teacher, was just like, oh my God, I've got 100 Thurbons in my class that I have to deal with.
Yep.
I wish I could just possess them with my witch magic and get them to sit down and shut up every now and then. Well, you can take that. You're like, kids, did anybody watch The Acolyte this week? Let's tell you all the things that Miss Kneen can get up to. So, yeah, they kind of just stumble. Sol is just out and about on his mission. Got to say, Jedi robes completely impractical for this kind of work as well. There should be a sort of like a workwear version of the Jedi robe, like a hard yakka version, like a sort of
overalls.
Yeah, just very hot.
Like a Luke in Empire sort of overalls, or Dagobah Luke.
Yeah, with the cut sleeves sort of thing for the outdoors.
Yeah,
because they're trolloping along in this forest, collecting samples with these big robes on, going, oh man. I guess they were walking through the forest the last few weeks. It's like, no wonder they're all on edge. Everyone's just hot and sweaty, having a bad time. But so Master Sol so we get the sort of first perspective. So Master Sol spies Osha and May, sort of having the argument by the big yellow tree, and spots that they can use the Force really, and that's all where it sort of starts to kick off. And it was a weird thing because I never really considered that he was worried about the welfare of the kids. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't so much. It was more just, why are these children here and they could be in danger. It just seemed like they might be doing some weird ritual on them or something.
Yeah, there was a bit of that when he obviously first climbed that wall to go and spy on them, and then
again very hard in Jedi robes, like completely impractical outfit.
Yeah, but he sort of did that first mission, and then he came back and reported, and sort of he probably indicated that there's some sort of witchery going on, and he was concerned about their welfare, and they were like you said, potential to do some sort of ritual on the children. So
yeah, because the Jedi probably not in favour of witches anyway, but the comment did come up about, well, they were the only children I saw, and obviously that.
Where'd they get them from? Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
That struck everyone as odd.
They did also mention Night Sisters, and they said they couldn't be Night Sisters because Night Sisters don't raise younglings or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta say,
they kind of ruled out the Night Sister thing.
Character, like, gotta say, Master Indara kind of comes out pretty clean in this. She's actually the voice of reason throughout the whole thing. She's actually following quite due process, and like, considering she was the first to be off, you're not buying it. I mean, at the very end, obviously.
Oh, at the very end, yeah.
But for the most part, she's kind of like, well, you know, maybe we should just leave them alone. Maybe we should get the council involved. You know, Sol, your perspective here is a bit, you know, I'll go in by myself and talk to them. Like, we don't want to cause a scene. Let's just keep this chill. Like, her instincts are actually right all the way through. And it's interesting the criticism was like, oh, the Jedi, you know, you've made the Jedi a bunch of nut bars who've gone in and stormed in. It's like, well, actually, Indara actually tried to run the due process through this.
And to be fair, like, Kalnaka was also fairly innocent as well. I would say.
Well, that's the turn. I mean, even when we saw the footage, like that little second snippet of Kalnaka sort of with the lightsaber in the trailers, it never occurred to me that he was going to go off. He was going to.
Well, I think we were supposed to think that Thurbon was the one that was possessed and attacking the other Jedi, all right?
Yeah.
And then it was the other way around.
Yeah, and we got some very sweet lightsaber Wookiee moves there, which we'll get onto. But yeah, I don't know. Like, how do you feel about Master Sol in this? He's got the right intentions, but he does kind of let his feelings get kind of in the way, really, doesn't it?
And he sort of makes some assumptions or he jumps to some assumptions fairly quickly. So, you know, in the test, like, he very quickly assumes, the girls are in danger.
Yep.
Why? Like, he's making assumptions about, you know, that he can see, yes, they're going to have a ritual, but he, you know, very quickly assumes that danger will that ritual will endanger them. You know, what is he basing that on? Like, he is concerned with their welfare, but he's basing a lot of those concerns on assumptions. And
he's making the like, he obviously connected with Osha in some way. Something told him that is who he needs to train. So therefore, all his motivations are like, well, in order for me to make this happen, I've got to almost think that she's in trouble and she needs to be helped. Yeah. And 'cause he wasn't at all interested in training May. Like, when she came in, he's just like, oh, she's lying. You know, it doesn't really matter. Whatever.
So on that instant attachment, I guess that was his downfall. So he had some sort of emotional connection to Osha. But what I'm thinking is that maybe that connection was a vision of the future and his connection with Osha.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to play out.
It was kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So he saw the future that Osha was his Padawan, but he kind of made it happen by fucking up, sort of thing. Excuse me.
But does the connection, like, is that his fate and he hasn't realized it? Like, Osha will kill him in this last episode. Like, is that, and that's not the end that he's seen, but he's seen that there's something important that she does in regards to him, but he doesn't know what it is yet. But he knew that they have to have a relationship, and it might be that she's the one that kills him. Yeah, that she actually kills him in the last episode. And it's like, well, that's what the Force was telling you all along, was that we have this thing, but you didn't see that it was actually me I had to kill you in order to join the dark side, and blah blah blah. And
like, I guess that's
he's seen the connection, but again assumed that it's meant that
the right
she
reasons
was meant to be his Padawan. Yeah,
and that comes back to the destiny versus choice. So he probably saw Osha as his destiny, but then he could have had the choices he made were wrong all along. Yeah, well, not all, mostly all along.
Yeah, and I mean, it's clearly, you know, he. Yeah, I kind of feel bad for the guy. He had the road to hell is paved with good intentions, as they say, and he gets sort of so fixed that he has that Osha's the sort of the one that he wants to bring, and he kind of begrudgingly was like, well, we'll bring both the girls, but obviously he's really only interested in one. And it's interesting because, you know, we talked early on about going, well, you know, are they there specifically for these girls? Are they there to take them out? Do they know that they're a manifestation of the Force or created by the Force, and that's why they're there? But Indara's just like, well, just leave them. They're there with their family. Like, whatever, it's not a big deal. We'll get kids from somewhere else, which is quite fascinating. So it wasn't like, one, they were there for a completely unrelated reason, And she wasn't even, she literally was like, we'll test them to buy time. It wasn't even like, oh my God, we've got to test these kids because something amazing's happening.
Yeah, it was,
she's just gone,
biding some time.
That gives me time to stall, find out what they're up to, and contact the council. And even then, she's like, well, she's too old anyway. So we're just doing it to calm the farm, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, find out more about who they are, who the witches are, what they're up to. Are the girls in danger? Because if they're not, yes, they are too old to train. Leave them there. Don't forcibly take them. And Indara sort of is saying the right things, but then people around her sort of seem to be a little bit more impulsive.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what happens. So we get there was a curious bit where they show the May training, and they sort of say, when you got the mark on your head, it's very nice, and what does it mean? It means that we're going to run the coven. And she sort of says, well, what happens to all the other people? Like, why is it you? There's that bit there where they sort of said, well, why would you be the ones to do it? Or there was some line about that, which kind of went, well,
some line there. I did write something down that was, I think she said, while she was getting tested, May, she said, Mama said everyone must walk through fear. Everyone must be sacrificed to fulfill their destiny.
Yeah. So I was like,
what does she mean by sacrifice? Like everyone being sacrificed? Who is everyone?
Yeah. Well, is that clear? Is that why everyone's dead?
And that's why, Sol was like, oh, they're going to be sacrificed. Like he saw it as we've got to intervene. Yep. Sacrifice, where it's that physical sacrifice, whereas it could mean we're going to give up, like giving up something for Lent, or giving up some kind of other kind of life, whereas he's seeing it as a sacrifice, so they're in physical harm. So he's making an assumption based on his interpretation of a word. So
they're, he's running in all guns blazing. They're just like, oh, hey man, we're just gonna have fish and chips on Friday. Like that's as far as it goes. Like it's that's about as far as some people
fast for a couple of days.
Yeah. We're just gonna give up chocolate. Monday to Friday. So that was quite fascinating because I mean I'll try to keep this. I'm trying to get this linear. We'll get to the other bits. We'll get to the other bits. But they obviously come into they show them when they kind of break into the front door, and it's quite interesting because it is like literally they turn up in order to, because they think they've got to save May and Osha because they think they're in trouble, and they see the sort of rituals about to go down, and the moon, the planets are converging, and this is the day, and who knows what they're going to do? They might kick them down the pit or whatever. Who knows? And they do break in. They do slice the door. And then we kind of get that bit of inside Thurbon's head where the mother Anastasia is just sort of
almost seducing him.
It was almost kind of like sort of sexy. Like you want to give me a little kiss, don't you? You little randy little teenage boy, don't you?
The language was very much like Khmer used with May. Like sort of, I think, what did they say? I'll give you what you want, or I'll let you do whatever you desire, kind of thing. I'll let you leave the planet. And he's got great, I can leave the planet.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, you don't want to kiss the beautiful lady? You just want to get off. It was like, I just want to get home to my Nintendo, thanks.
Yeah. Pretty much. But I thought that was interesting because we got to see behind the spell, basically.
Yeah. So she was really very much in control of the situation from the jump. And whereas Mother Zabrak, a little bit more hot-headed about all these things. But, so they kind of test the girls. They talk to May. They talk to Osha. We see them talking to May. And then they get the blood samples back. And it's Phantom Menace all over again. The bloody midichlorian chart is the
M count.
The M count's off the scale.
But they also mentioned symbiote or symbiote.
Yeah, because the midichlorians are like symbiotes that live within the blood, and that's how they think the force acts within us. And that they were saying they're the same, like identical. Even though that, and they were saying even in identical twins, those should be different, but in these two they were the same, meaning that they came from the same source, basically.
But that still doesn't.
And they kind of implied that their consciousness was split. Is that what they said?
Yeah, yeah, that they were one entity but split into two.
They certainly have very different behaviors between the girls. It's strange that they're identical, like purely identical, but they have very different.
Yeah, or it's just one's got one's bit, and then the overlap is sort of swinging back the other way. But it still doesn't. I mean, there's no talk of exactly what they've done. They kind of allude to some sort of ritual or something, but we don't really get a solid. This was a force thing. This is something. This manifestation in the. Like it's created life on the planet. It's created life. That's an interesting thing that it's sort of like, well. The Force created life on this planet, and people are getting all uppity about the Force creating life. Like Anakin should be the only one. He's the special. He's special. How dare you besmirch the path of the chosen one and blah blah blah. It's like, well, in this case, this what was it? Temperance? No, what was it? Virgins.
Virgins.
This Virgins actually brought a dead planet back to life. So it's creating life everywhere. Like it's like the trees and the tree and the ship and all this sort of stuff. So it's actually a person is just another growing thing that's grown in this area, and the witches have found a way to manipulate it. Whether we get those answers this season or not, I don't know. I was quite interested in the interview that Leslie Henley did with Maggie, friend of the show, Maggie Lovett, friend of the show. Yep, she always supports the show. Did a great interview with Leslie Henley on Collider, and she was even talking about the things happening this season. Like her language was different. Like she was sort of talking about, this season we're doing this. Like it was really noticeable. It wasn't just going, well, this is it. It really felt like I'm almost positive there's going to be a season 2 of this. Like just the language that she was using wasn't like, oh, well, it's a one and done. It feels like there's more.
Well, yeah, the initial interviews in the early parts of the season were saying that it was very much a contained story, but she has some ideas.
Yep.
And slowly across time, she's sort of hinting that it's going to turn into season 2. So I'm sure some people on the internet won't be happy, but I'd be happy with it.
Me too. And who cares? Who cares what they say?
Who cares about those other internet people anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. Go come up to 4 Mile Beach and have a swim in the ocean and clear your mind, and nothing will get you down. Yeah. But so effectively, we see what happens to Thurbon. She's in his head. They all go back to the ships and they do the testing and things, and they find out that the M count's high, and then Thurbon's like, these kids are my ticket off this shithole. We found them. That felt like a real Anakin. Again, I took like a really impulsive, like, we're going now. Like, come on, like, let's go. Like,
yeah.
He got on that bike and got down there.
Very impulsive. Again, these parallels to House of the Dragon, where
I haven't seen it yet.
No, I'm just saying that, going back to like season 1 of, if people just weren't so impulsive, a lot of the ensuing problems may not have occurred.
Yep. He was he got on that little bike and he I don't know what his plan was. Was he just going to grab the kids and put them on the I don't really understand what his. Was he just like, well, I've got the evidence, I just need to, I don't know. There's the evidence of your virgins.
I guess maybe he didn't want to, he wanted to grab them and then take them back to Coruscant, so he's done his job, he can hang out in Coruscant.
Yeah, he's just going to go see,
get out of this field work.
Yeah, get out of this field work, go see my girlfriend and, have a life again or whatever he wants to do, which is all these teenage things that we're just throwing out again. But, so he sort of shows up and Sol follows him there, and then they scale the wall again, and we get a little bit more Back to the Future 2, sort of see how the fire. So May did start the fire, and it was sort of an escalation of a fire, and they did mention it was a mining colony or something originally, or some sort of mining outpost.
An old mining site. So I guess it comes down to what they were mining. I mean, obviously, people saying, how did the fire spread so quickly? I mean, you can make anything up in your head, can it? Could be like some sort of gas or,
well, the early electrics were sort of like fire,
Electrics, yeah.
Yeah, it looked a bit like it the electrics, the power circuits, and then it travelled somewhere, and then that hit something else, and that then cascaded. It was then just a cascade of problems.
Maybe they were mining cortosis as well.
So they were mining something very highly volatile, or whatever was in there originally. I don't know whether they were doing that themselves, but excuse me, all the bits were still there. But so they get down to the courtyard, and Mother Zabrax, she's tired of talking. She's got her staff and her stick, and she's ready to kick some ass, really. And she's got all the archers up on the walls, and then we do get this amazing misdirect, don't we? The Kanaka misdirect was wonderful, because every moment you're waiting for him to kick off.
Yeah. Well, before that, I thought it was interesting. There was Mother Coral who was firing May up to
of course,
stop Osha from leaving, and she was like, tap into that anger, into that, to use that power, use that anger to...
And she locked them all in and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's right, because they say go in there and close, lock the doors, no one's getting out. Is she still on the board? What do you think?
Mother Coral?
No, Mother Coral, yeah.
Yeah, I think she's still on the board.
Yeah, she turned into that...
Smoke monster.
Smoke monster from Lost. So. Shout out to King Tom, who probably say the same thing.
Yeah. So they sort of come in, not all guns blazing. They do sort of come in and try it. Thurbon's got the lightsaber up straight away, and Sol is still sort of very fixed on trying to save the children. And Mother Coral comes at him, and he's just sort of ducking and weaving. He sort of doesn't want to engage, which just makes her angrier, really.
Yeah, he doesn't get the lightsaber out for a while.
No, and when he does, it's to cut her weapon in half.
Yeah.
Not to hurt her, it's to,
diffuse the situation, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we kind of talked about, when we talked about this leading up to this last week, Catherine, we were kind of going, how do we feel like what's going to go down? Do we feel like it's the Jedi just going in, all guns blazing and just going to clean house, or is it going to be an escalating number of misunderstandings? And I think we're kind of in that camp, aren't we, really? Like, it's sort of tensions have gotten high and have been escalated by both sides. But,
Mother Coral was the main...
She's poked the bear here, hasn't she? Yeah, she's really...
poked the bear. She got a poking stick out. I guess what happened straight after that, I guess then Mother Anasea sort of wanted to protect... She yelled out no and wanted to protect May, I think it was, and she turned into the smoke monster.
Yeah, and just before that, actually, she says, like, she's actually going, well, if Osha wants to go, she can go. And the interesting thing about all that is that at that point, they haven't actually told her that she's in. They were fully prepared. Indara was just like, they passed the test, but they're too old, just leave them there. But, so they would have prepared to walk back and go, oh, sorry, you've got some skills, but you're not quite right for us. Sorry, even though you've said you want to go, maybe, you'll just be staying home. And they all would have gone, oh, well, all right. But she was fully, they were all expecting her to basically be accepted, and they're all kind of in her face going, well, how could you let her go? We need her. And she's like, well.
Yeah. And it was Mother Indara who was trying to de-escalate the whole situation. Thurbon went in there hot-headed because, he wanted to get out of the planet. He was also, let's face it, still reeling from having, being possessed.
Well, I think that had a lot to do with it too. He's like, something's happened to me. I've got to get off this planet. And if this is what it takes to get me off this planet. Like, before he's going, I'm having a bad time. This sucks. I'm with old people. It's boring. And then he's going, they've messed with my head. Get me out of here as soon as possible, and I will do whatever it takes to get out of here because something's not right.
And then, he comes in there and as soon as he's lightly threatened, his lightsaber comes up.
Yeah, which they kind of knew was going to happen, I think.
Yeah.
That was similar. That's sort of similar to Yord as well. Yord was quick to get out his lightsaber too, wasn't he?
They could have used the cool head of Yord a little bit down there, I reckon. Though he would have been a little more like, protocol states.
Yeah, the rules.
I'm the stickler for the rules. He would have absolutely have dobbed them in at the end.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn it, we shouldn't have brought Yord. He won't keep his mouth shut. He'll call it in the first chance he gets. Poor old Yord. Shout out to you.
I miss Yord.
Get your irons out, everybody. So yeah, and then Mother and Anasea comes in and basically tries to fuse, and May runs in after starting the fire, and it's all sort of kicking off. And she goes smoke monster. Now, is she trying to move herself in front of May to protect her? Is she? I didn't quite get what she was trying to achieve with that.
My first view, I was confused by it all. Second view, it does look like that. It looks like she was trying. She yelled out "no," so sort of "no," Darth Vader style. And
no.
Smoke bombed in across to May, so it looked like she was protecting May. And then that happened right in the middle of Sol and Mother Coral. Sol freaked out, saw this like smoke monster, goes probably never seen that in his life before.
Yep.
And he just lunges in with his lightsaber as well. So
yeah. And when May came running in initially, didn't Sol say Osha?
Yes, I think he does.
Yeah. And I think because they've got the same sort of symbionts and that one entity theory, could this like be why Sol found it so hard to tell the difference between the two of them when May dressed up as Osha?
Yeah.
Like, is this helping to explain why? Because that's what a lot of people have been complaining about. Well, why didn't Sol know? Yes, he was in emotional turmoil, but also, do they feel the
same?
Basically the same in the Force.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's true, but at the same time, his connection was initially with Osha.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Why was the connection with her and not May?
Well, does he think in that moment that one, that's Osha, and the smoke monster is part of whatever ritual to finish? And it's like, oh, this is it. Like they're gonna get her, so I've got to freaking save her, and that's what I'm doing.
That's the sacrifice.
That's the sacrifice. Yeah. This is it. It's like, well, this is the last chance to do it because it's all kicking off. So I'm going to smoke monster
I thought of that. Yeah.
And he's just like, whoa, this is where it's going to happen. I've got to stop her, and that's why he goes Osha, because I assume that's Osha I've got to save, and it's not. And then it all goes a bit downhill from there, and then. The quite nice moment is, because Thurbon goes like, "Oh, don't worry, I've steeled my brain here. I've kept them out of my head, so I'm ready to go, buddy." And then your boy Karnaka is just standing on the thing going, "Didn't see this one coming, did ya?"
No, I didn't see that. Yeah, that was interesting.
Some great moves, like Eunice in the suit, being able to move like that. Fight.
It's interesting though. Karnaka didn't look as big as he looked. Sort of similar size to everyone else. Like he wasn't. Compare Chewbacca and everyone else. He didn't seem to tower over everyone else. So it looked like a bit more of a level playing field as well. Because with the Wookiees, he could have easily ripped his arms out of his socket or something. But,
yeah, it's kind of funny because you go like, well, I suppose a trained Jedi could evade a Wookiee, with the skill of the Force. But if you've got, if it gets a Wookiee Jedi, what does that mean? Does it even the field and you've just got a bloke with brute strength? But there was some great sort of choreography and Sol doing some little leaps and things. So
there was a slow-mo leap as well, I think, with Sol. Yeah.
I was looking for that $6 million man, that whoever does the edit, who edits these two episodes together.
Bullet time.
When Sol jumps in the air, I want to. For the the thing in the sky. So, who's controlling Karnaka at that point? Is it because all those other witches are all just sort of on the thing? They're all like doing.
I think that's what I'm not sure about because
my feeling is that they're all sort of linked somehow. That they're almost channeling their power into either Mother Coral or Mother Anastasia for them to do all the power that they need to. So their ritual, their chanting is
the power of one.
Yeah. Well, the power of many. Yeah. It's the power of many.
Many and one. Yeah.
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 Together as one.
Yeah. They're channeling it all
Are their powers
Well,
tied
it's
to
got
Mother
something.
Anastasia? Like when she goes down, is that what? Because they're all dead. It wasn't entirely clear what killed them.
Were they dead or were they passed out?
And they just took them, and they're just like, well, because the thing is that May, and the thing we didn't learn as well was how did May get out of that hole? Because she turns up at the tree at the end of the episode 3 to look for Osha, because that's basically where she goes when she's gone missing. So she goes straight to the tree. So she's got out of that hole. So there is the moment after that all kind of goes down. The girls are on the bridge again, and Sol's holding the bridge up, and basically decides to save Osha and not May.
The good son.
The good side, yeah. We let Macaulay Culkin drop into the abyss, but we don't see what happens to May, and we still don't.
Frodo.
We still didn't see what happens to her. Was that Elijah Wood in that movie as well?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think I've only ever seen the end of that movie. I don't think I've actually sat through the whole thing.
But yeah, when the first viewing, I thought it was Mother Coral going over towards Kalnaka, as a smoke bomb or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought it was her that sort of cursed Kalnaka, but it seemed to be the entire witch coven.
Yeah.
So it was.
Indara comes in and sort of gets Kalnaka back on track, and they all sort of like, ugh. But I don't know. Like, are they all dead? Maybe they're not. Maybe May just gets up and they're all just there.
I did see some reference, and again, this is something I just scrolled by on. I forget where it was, Threads or something, but someone mentioned an old EU thing called a Jedi thought bomb. So I don't know what that is, but yeah, someone's saying that's the reason why.
Because I'm louder than a bomb. It's just like, that's what a PE.
Yeah, well, I've got nothing behind that. I just saw the word Jedi thought bomb, so that could be something from the EU that I.
That's just the Star Wars version of a hot take, a Jedi thought bomb. Just let me drop my Jedi thought bomb here on you, everybody. Yeah, so it just didn't feel entirely clear. Like, we kind of went, oh, well, maybe it must be the poison. They've talked about the poison, and Thurbon obviously blames himself because he was impulsive and kind of started the chain of events that sort of kicked this thing off. It feels like that's where his guilt comes from. Kalnaka obviously went mental, and got controlled, and that's where he blames himself. And Sol sort of single-mindedly wanting to save the girls. It feels like that's why Indara kind of has a semi-clean conscience, at least of what's happened. She obviously does clean up the mess, but she was the voice of reason throughout all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, and was at each step telling, the people on her side to calm down. And if I think it'd just been a conversation with her and Mother Anastasia, so many things would have gone differently.
They would have just been like, well, we're not really interested in your kids. They're too old anyway. Are you doing anything weird here? No, their kids aren't going to die. I love them. They're my kids. All right, well, we might come back and check on you in a little while, but you're free to go about your day.
Yeah.
They should have just sat around and had a cup of tea and a chat.
got the good biscuits out of the cupboard, got the Monte Carlos out or something, and
share a meal, break some bread. I think that would solve everything.
Yeah. I mean, we like I said, we do think it was being an escalating number of sort of misunderstandings and things on both sides, but yeah, how they all died again still feels like a bit of a mystery. What happened to May? How did she get out of that hole?
I don't
Who
think
saved
they
her?
all died. I think what we saw was them all passing out. They may have died in the fire or a building collapse, but I don't think we saw them all definitively dead.
I didn't even think of that potentially the whole building just collapsed on top of them afterwards, and that was that May gets back there and it's like, oh, the whole thing...
Did we see it collapse? Because they were kind of outside. Well, it looked like they were outside-ish area, not quite inside.
Because she would be mad. Like, May would be mad enough if it just meant that her mother died. Like, she saw her mother go down. Like, that would be enough for her to be like, well, I've got to take these Jedi down. Like, that is enough motivation, let alone the whole coven.
Yeah, that is the motivation, her mother, for sure. But maybe there is something... So, I'm trying to think ahead, but maybe I'm thinking ahead, but, like, what's going to happen next episode? Is Sol going to take May back to that planet? And or what? Yeah, I don't know.
I think they're all going to Chymea's planet, because he's got May, so she knows where it is because she's been there. So I'm assuming he's got May. That's why he sort of was like, well, I'm not interacting with the Jedi. I've got May. I'm going straight to get Osha because she's with the stranger now, and I'm going to finish this one way or another. But so I think it's going to be May, Osha. And I think Venestra will get there to clean up the mess at the end. Again, it'll be too late. But I don't know. Like I really just don't think it's all going to be resolved. I think we're going to have hanging threads in this series. It's not going to be the neat little bow that I think we sort of thought it might be, which is fine. Give me more mystery. You don't have to give me everything. You've given me a little bit more. But
well, I guess we all kind of realise that Sol has to die or sacrifice himself or redeem himself because he still very much has guilt. Yeah, he heard the word.
I think his death is the thing that tips Osha into the dark side. I hate to say it, but whether it's by her hand, if she Ben Solos it and pushes him off a gantry and does all of that.
You think that Osha will find out that Sol killed her mother, Anastasia? Is that what? Yeah,
I think that might be it. That he struck the blow, but.
Yeah, I was more thinking an honourable death, so sacrificing himself to save one of them. But
I mean, maybe. I just, I don't know. There's so many sort of ways this can play out. We've been led to believe things before, and I mean, even just something like Kaunaka being the one that kind of went off. I don't think anybody picked that. It was very clever, even though they showed that clip, like I said, in the TV spot or whatever. Nobody really clicked to it, not that I saw anyway. So it's very deliberative, sort of showing you what you need to know, messing around with it a little bit. Is Mother Zabrak still in the mix somehow? How's Chymea's connection to this? Has he just heard the story and that's all he needs to know? He's just like, no, I know about Master Sol. He killed your mum. Like, that's all I need to know. That's all the ammo I need to get you to be on my side.
Going back to the choices towards the end, I think Sol wanted to turn himself into the council, and Indara convinced him that's a bad idea. So, I mean, Indara is not entirely blameless here.
Oh no, I don't think she's at all. But I think I think it got to that point where it's like, well, this could just be for nothing. But this child is of enough interest now that we know that there's a vergence in the Force around her as well, that it's in our interests to at least see what happens and go on from here. But yeah, it's. It would have been a very awkward ride home. Everybody's just sort of, staring off into the middle distance, not really wanting to talk, like an awkward family dinner or something.
Yeah, and I think, Indara is sort of thinking, well, Osha's your responsibility now, Sol. Like, you're totally responsible.
Pay your penance through her now, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is obviously why it. He's obviously clouded by her, his decision-making is clouded by her. There is a connection. There is something that's left unfulfilled about it. We haven't quite seen yet. He's been kind of living with that. And even more so, I think, after she washes out, it's just like he's trying to fill that hole with Jackie, I suppose. And I don't know if he's had any other learners before that. I did like at the very start, actually, where it was sort of... They were having like a little conversation, and Indara's just giving a little tease about him not having a Padawan, and they're just sort of... I like those little sort of human moments because they're not just sort of robots. They are sort of people and with flaws and impulses and everything else, which was quite refreshing.
Yeah, it gave them moments of being, those everyday interactions, and it's that the Jedi weren't bad. They made bad decisions, based on flawed information or their own, thinking that they are righting every situation, but they weren't bad. Like, they weren't evil. They weren't going in there to hurt everyone.
Yeah, it is good intentions, but at the same time, it's sort of, there's still the whole concept of them.
Yeah, they shouldn't just assume
dictating how the Force should be used.
Yeah.
And it's talking about other religions, and it gets into that sort of thing.
Like they're thinking that other interpretations of the Force, well, that must be evil. And as soon as the word sacrifice is said, oh, that must be an evil thing. Whereas you think, no, the Jedi do sacrifice things. They sacrifice family. They sacrifice a personal life. They sacrifice their sense of self, really, to be a Jedi. But, you know, that they couldn't in the moment, or Sol couldn't in the moment, interpret the word sacrifice as perhaps meaning that. And he was thinking, he jumped immediately to the, no, that's a bad thing.
They just chomping for some action. After being, after digging moss for 7 weeks or whatever, they're like, hey man, I just want to swing my lightsaber around a little bit, get a little of excitement here.
But it still comes down to the Jedi just stealing children at an early age from their families, and the underlying trauma of that, like how that impacts everyone. Basically.
But at least Indara was kind of like, they're better to stay with their family. They're too young. We need your consent to test them and all that. So they did go. They're
too old.
Oh, too old. Yeah. Sorry. There is a level of sort of protocol that they still have to go through on this, but it just it was kind of a situation of escalating unfortunate events.
It's a high-handedness.
A series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Jedi, it's a high-handedness of, oh no, we know best in every situation.
Yeah.
And other people, other cultures, other religions, they're not as good as us, or that they're not correct.
But they've probably also, they've probably seen some stuff. If you're a Jedi Knight, you've probably seen the worst of the galaxy as well. So there is a point of like, well, we have to deal with some pretty crappy stuff and crappy people all of the time. So maybe we jump too fast on this, but a lot of the time it is people in danger or children in danger, and this is what we do. Well, we've got to get out there and right the wrongs, and sometimes you can't see beyond your own nose, so to speak. But look, I think a cracking episode. I think it gave us enough to put some full stops on some of the things. Some of the things I feel like are still up in the air. We might find out next week as well, and other stuff we might not find out till season 4 of The Acolyte. We could be sitting here in a few years' time talking about season 4 and be like, man, we were way off in that episode where they talked about this, and we turned out there was 10 other twists and turns that Leslie Headland hadn't prepared us for.
The one quote that we've got to talk about was Mother Anastasia is someday these noble intentions you all have will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy.
Yep.
And you're like, foreshadowing.
What do you know? And there was another bit there where she was just like, I am the mother. Like, I made this decision as a mother as well. It's just like, that's... yeah. It's very prophetic there from Mother Anastasia.
That their hubris will be their downfall.
So what's going down next week, guys? We're going to have the final episode of the Acolyte. I'm going to be my holiday is going to be over. I'm going to be back in cold Melbourne by then. I would have been back at work. I'll be all sulky because I'm back in the freezing cold. I'm not at the beach anymore, but I'm going to have this last episode of the Acolyte that's going to run for 95 minutes to watch.
Movie length. Yes.
Now, I had heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not that the final episode is called Doom.
I did see that, but
I don't know if that was
that
at all
prediction. That same prediction got the episode title wrong for this week. So
there you go.
Doom sounds good though.
It is cool, but
I'm into that.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I have a feeling it's going to all go down on the planet where Chimera is. I'd like to see what his connection is, how he sort of fits into this, how he even found May. I feel like you just don't randomly just find some person looking for revenge, whether it's through when he was posing as Chimera and that's how he found her, or if it's something else entirely. Maybe we'll see that or not. But I feel like it's going to be, again, I've got a feeling it's going to kind of go down on this planet. Things are going to escalate again in a way, and people aren't going to make it out. Who that is, I don't know yet.
I mean, obviously Chimera was discarded by his family. But I'm wondering if, like, he was somehow linked to the... I mean, he's obviously not a witch, but I'm wondering if it's the whole female thing where maybe they had a boy and they discarded him at an early age or something. I don't know.
Well, I don't think... And also, I don't know whether... I mean, I don't know how witches work. any of those women could have had a child and it was just cast aside because you couldn't have any children there, or if they weren't fit for purpose. And he's like, well, you can come into the coven, but you can't take the kid, so you got to ditch the kid. Could be something along those lines. I'm not too sure, but I don't know. It just feels like it's going to be. It's going to be dramatic. I just think it's going to be dramatic. How does this Virgins in the First work? How's this split entity work? Do they combine? Are they like stationed from Bill and...
one of them dies?
Are they like stationed from Bill and Ted?
So they both die.
Yeah. Well, Station in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Station, and he breaks into two little bits, and then he runs together and makes one big one. Is that
strange things are afoot at the Circle K?
Yeah, is that what going to happen? Are we going to get a Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey kind of thing here? But I don't know. I guess we'll see. But look, I think any other final thoughts here before we want to send this sucker home, Catherine? Turbo, you go, mate. You've got a thought.
No, I don't. Sorry, I didn't want to butt in. We haven't talked about the song in the credits.
Well, I haven't heard it because I had friends here waiting to swim. As soon as it ended, I was like, directed by whoever it was, and I paused it. And I put my iPad down and I ran out and swam in the pool. So I haven't actually heard it. Is it the Amanda, the song that came out a few weeks ago, or is it something else?
No, it's I didn't watch it for a second time, but it was a very kind of modern day sort of. Not pop song, but I'm trying to think of how to describe it. But the lyrics was along the lines of The Power of Two, so I heard The Power of Two mentioned. But like the credits,
was it Huey Lewis doing the secret? That was the sequel to The Power of Love. It's the power of two.
Yeah, and the credits rolled, and it was just your regular, soundtrack and going on, and all of a sudden this music popped up, and I thought it was something else coming from some other speaker.
You're just like, my phone's just synced with my... Well, because a friend of the show, Matt Frost, messaged me before I'd watched it yet, just saying, has the Acolyte always had pop songs over the credits? And I just went, oh, well, I haven't watched it yet, but not that I'm aware of. So
I haven't yet looked up who was the artist or writer. But Catherine, what were your thoughts?
To be honest, I was trying to block it out. As soon as I hear music, I kind of block it out.
Right, yeah. I had flashbacks to Willow. So, like, one of the major complaints with Willow TV series was the modern songs in the credits. And I think there was even songs during the live action as well. Like, so...
Yeah, there was.
This is going to be a first for Star Wars. I can't think of any time it's ever had pop songs in the credits for anything.
No. And even all the sort of lapty neck and everything was kind of like an alien dialect and
yeah, it was diegetic.
Yeah.
Type of music. Yeah. I think I'd sort of heard a bit of it and like on Instagram stories, if I've been looking for putting music on things, I almost think it's being an option on that. So yeah, I don't know. Like, as I say, I just kind of...
Not enough 80s for you, Catherine.
Zone out and then go, stop suggesting, something else, Disney Plus, and let me go over. Yeah, I'll just have credits going for a bit.
I might try and have a watch tonight before I go to bed once I get this up.
Well, because what happened was that it had that song and then it came in and recommended I think it was the Bratz. The Brat Pack documentary.
Oh, I'd like to watch that, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
I have Ahsoka recommended to me every week. It's like, dude, I've watched this.
Move on, Disney Plus.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week with the finale. Hopefully, we'll get a full deck. We'll try and get Andy Bell, and maybe we'll get Mole as well. Maybe we'll have we'll just have everybody here for the finale if they can make it. But shout out to everybody who's listening, and we've got a few new listeners this week after we got a shout out on Star Wars Explained from our buddies over there. So, got a few new listeners. Hello, if you're here, feel free to stick around. But we'll be back next week to wrap this up, wrap this wonderful series up. May there be more. So, Turbo, thanks for coming, mate. Good to see you again.
Yeah, hopefully see you next week. Thanks for having me again.
Anytime. And Catherine, always a pleasure. Enjoy the last few days of your holiday.
Yes, I'll very much try to just suck up all the quiet time before it all kicks off again.
Well, I'm sure you'll be fine. And get that plumbing sorted as well. We'll look forward to the next plumbing adventure next week.
Yeah, I don't want to go back to Coruscant.
No.
What are you talking about? Field work sounds lovely.
Get your metal detector out. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Later.
Bye. Bye.